Hello, welcome. We will start at about 10 minutes or so, just kind of getting things set up.
For the after show.
Well, thank you.
So, Darren, do you want to? I know you created an incredible video that I got a little preview of this morning, that we'll also be able to see, and you'll get a little sense visually of what the show looked like.
Absolutely. Thank you, Abby. And we'll play in just a moment. I want to give there's a few more people as they see as they're
Yeah,
the room is
coming
starting
in.
to fill up. You can see it kind of coming down the right-hand side. It was quite exciting as people self-designated. If you wanted to come to this, we could have upwards of 100 somewhat people joining the kickoff to this great after show digital week experiment. So we appreciate you all coming online to experiment with us, continue the conversation with us. In a moment, we'll start this video that I'll share my screen here. Please note for folks that are still joining, the session is being recorded. Everyone comes in automatically muted, but because we are using Zoom, we will have opportunities that if you'd like to add some additional comments or ask questions, maybe you couldn't physically make it, and maybe Abby or I could answer those questions for you. So we will give opportunity for conversation. You can use the chat bot, the chat system to ask a question. You can unmute. Please feel free to go ahead and interact with us in this class today. Yes,
Absolutely.
I'll go ahead and share my screen now.
Okay.
And here we go. And the sound.
I don't know if you're going to be able to see the sound unless you might want to unshare real quick. Oh, there you go. You got it. I heard it. Perfect.
You know what? This show has exceeded our expectations. I've attended two consumer shows this year and two other trade shows, and this by far trumps every show. I can't imagine who we haven't seen. So I'm extremely pleased, extremely satisfied. Look forward to going to Cologne and look forward to next year's show.
All right, so that gives you a little bit of a visual sense of what the show looked like, and I think it's a really good sense too. And I love that he said that he's looking forward to going to Cologne next year as well, because I think the Cologne show really beautifully complements the H&H America show.
Agreed. For folks that haven't been able to get there before, the people kept asking me, "What is it like?" It was a wonderful little mini me of the experience. The quality of the exhibits that we saw, as you could see in those photos there, the efforts and the energy put in by all of the exhibitors, whether we were looking at fabric, yarn, thread, needles, tools. There was great attention paid to presenting a quality image, a inspirational image, and just creating kind of a fun environment, things that are beyond us as organizers and content providers can ever imagine to do. It's only done with the energy of all of those exhibiting products.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really a beautiful show, very professional, a lot of really beautifully built booths. And I think for me, one of the things that was most unique about it was bringing yarn and fabric under one roof. And I think a lot of people were really struck by that. My feeling is always that we have more in common than not in common. And it was great to be able to have that cross pollination. And I heard people collaborating, coming up with new ideas, yarn shop owners looking at bringing in fabric. I talked to a knitting pattern designer who would like to create a quilt version of one of their patterns and was, exploring how to do that. So I think that there's so much cool room for collaboration going forward. And I think we're only going to expand out in years to come.
One of the fabric companies had made a comment to me that if you tear his fabrics into little ribbons or thread, like little sheets, that you can weave. He has one. One of his designers weaved a dress. And I was like, that's awesome. Like that has to be on the show next year, because talking about the idea of taking two different ideas, knitting, weaving, and say garment sewing and fabrics, and showing how it can cross over. Creative people can do creative things. Before we look, let's say maybe some things in more detail. Abby, I want to ask you, was there one thing that kind of jumped out at you, and was there a single wow moment for you, or was there just too many wow moments?
Well, I mean, for me, I got to moderate the state of the industry panel discussion. I was very nervous because I'm not a huge public speaker, but I think it went really well. And thankfully, we had four incredible panelists. And so for me, I think the thing that struck me the most, both with that panel and with the show itself, was how global it was. So on the panel, we had a quilt shop owner from Australia. We had somebody who is the head of the trade association in Germany, and then we had somebody from New York and somebody from Texas. It was truly very international and people from all different sectors of the industry too. So really a broad gamut. And I think it really set the tone for the whole show, which is to say there were lots of languages being spoken on the show floor, not just English. There were products from all over the world, buyers from all over the world. And so for me, what struck me the most, honestly, was how global it was. Having been to other trade shows, I just did not get that sense.
Absolutely. I was standing in one exhibitor's booth and they stopped having a conversation with me because they ended up writing an order from Czechoslovakia. I was quite impressed. I have no
Totally.
people coming from that part of the world, but it's awesome because it just, our borders can be broken down where it's just people who have a passion, who want to do business and who want to exchange ideas, money, commerce, the whole bit. It's just, it's a wonderful thing to get everyone together like that. I agree. The internationalism was a wonderful thing to see within the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, as far as the state of the industry panel is concerned, I think that people were very real about some of the challenges that we have come out of and the challenges that we're going into. So, we spent a good amount of time talking about the pandemic and about what different sectors of the industry experienced during the last 2.5 years with a huge growth and interest in sewing and in knitting, embroidery, and crochet, and how to keep that momentum going forward as people enter into a recession with higher, fuel prices, with a supply chain, ongoing supply chain challenges, and people were really kind of real about that. And one of my favorite moments was we were talking about online learning and how that's become something that, people really enjoyed during the pandemic. And we were able to reach new markets, people who can't leave their homes for a lot of different reasons and who can't travel. And were able to participate on Zoom. And the wonderful nature of on a Zoom screen, every square is the same size. So if you want to be able to interact with a famous teacher, and maybe normally you'd be way in the back of the room and only see them from a distance, you get to see them up close on Zoom, and all the positives of that. And then David Gilliver from Germany, the trade association in Germany, he was like, yeah, I didn't learn anything new during the pandemic. And I just don't think, online learning is something that is that great or valuable going forward. And it was just very real. Nobody was sort of like pretending, people were really giving their own opinions. And I thought that that was really funny and also really valuable.
I agree. And for myself, there's a way, particularly when you're learning a skill, I can watch a cooking class and you could spend all day trying to watch that YouTube video or that food channel video. But there's something if you're in a room with a chef or in a room with a teacher who might even almost take your hand and say, let me show you how to do this. And I think since this is a tactile business that we all participate in, it worked because we had no choice, but it shows you maybe how we will, as we're doing now, a hybrid version, right? Opportunities when getting together makes sense, and opportunities where we can do it digitally. It's the cross between the two. And then probably you didn't see it as much as the panel ended and people moved into the preview night party. I was floored, completely amazed as the rush of people who wanted to come into the room, move through it, and then the buzz and the energy that you can see and hear. It was breathtaking to me just because you and I worked for the last, almost 11, 12 months in getting this here. And then you just step back and you can hear the commerce, you hear the conversations, you hear the people saying, oh my God, it's so good to see you. It's been so long. It's been 2 years. It's been 3 years since they've last connected. And that for me was my memorable moment, watching that interaction happen right at that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. I stayed behind at the State of the Industry panel just to answer questions and talk to people. And so when I did come out, the floodgates had opened, and I was like, oh wow, everybody's here, because the last, Tuesday, Wednesday morning, we were setting up the booths, and folks weren't coming, hadn't come in yet. And so it was just exciting. There was like a crowd of people already in. And one of the things I loved about the preview party is, so you come down the steps onto the show floor, and there was a bar, and there was beer and alcohol to drink, and then there was also sort of appetizers. I had a portobello slider that was very delicious, and it was like festive. It felt like a real party. And so, I mean, again, having been to other trade shows before, I had not been to a preview party. That just wasn't something that was offered. I got really good feedback about it, sort of opening, getting a chance to walk and see everybody, but also have a drink and a bite to eat, and just sort of be in a more party-like atmosphere. Not that people weren't already doing business, because they were.
Right. And part of the design of what we were trying to do was a little less do business. It was a little more, let's celebrate. Let's celebrate
Yes.
being back at trade shows. Let's celebrate something new for America, right? Let alone it's a new brand for the America. We've had H&H cologne for many years, but the concept where we could have yarn, buy notions, buy fabric, buy sewing, all of the fiber arts were able to unite, be reunited. Needlepoint for one, there you go, another one that just popped in mind, that we had needle points there. All us cross stitch. I mean, you can keep going on and on about the different techniques. I don't think we lost or had any general medium that wasn't somehow present, or even bringing professional makers together with educators, together with retailers, wholesalers, distributors. It was really a unification where for us, that's the forward vision. We want to see the industry come together so the entire industry can build together. And then it was a little chance to get that quick preview, plan your 2 days, get a walk around, kind of make the mental notes of what you want to see. But yet you're right. I can't tell you how many companies stopped me and said, I can't believe I wrote orders tonight. I didn't know what to expect tonight. I wrote 5 orders. I've already hit my sales goal for the show. Things like that were just tremendous.
Yes, absolutely. It gave a really good sort of left everyone with a really great taste in their mouth for the next day. And one of the things I thought, once the show floor opened in the morning, we were treated with a wonderful keynote by Joel Washington about the modern maker, which really, again, that along with the global state of the industry panel, I think brought everybody together on the right foot. But one of the things I was really struck with is just walking the show. The celebration piece definitely was there throughout. People really happy to see each other. Somebody commented, "Oh, your hair is so long," because the last time I had seen this fabric manufacturer was like 2.5 years ago. My hair was really short, so it's my COVID haircut. So everybody had changed a little bit, which was really fun to kind of be like, "Oh wow, you look different," and that was kind of neat. But what I really noticed too was, prior to the pandemic, even trade show attendance overall, not just in the crafts industry, but in general, was a little bit struggling. People are starting to source elsewhere, find things online, et cetera. And so now everybody has been, at home for so long, really wants to come back, connect in person again, have that trade show. They really value the in-person experience, having not been able to have it for so long. But the question really becomes, well, what should the new trade show look like? Like, what should it be like? And what I was hearing from people over and over again was, it should be all under one roof. We should all be together under one roof. And I think that this year's show set that tone, and it's only going to grow from here. But that vibe of celebration and unification was really there for me.
Well, and I agree. Like the part where what's always cool, because they've been able to do it in clone, is you can have a larger scale producer next to an indie hand dyer, where in the past or in other capacities might not have always mixed so well together. But there, it just goes to work, because yes, we have large multi big box store buyers who are looking at a show and looking for inspiration ideas at one level. And then we have a local yarn shop or a local sewing shop, local quilting shop, who just has their one store and does a very nice business, has a wonderful community, can equally utilize the same inspiration and almost access the same types of sourcing, but they want different kinds of products. They have different types of customers, different type of pricing strategies, different types of deliverables. and yet it works because it brings everyone up together. I
Yeah,
think that
absolutely. And I felt like the India Entangled Pavilion was an absolute joy in that sense because here you have these very sort of smaller booths that are affordable for people who are newer to wholesale. And you got to see like what's up and coming and get to meet people who were maybe just getting started in the industry or, just have a product at a smaller scale. And I loved having their presence at the show because that's what the show is all about is discovery. And so that was super cool. And I also noticed a lot of kits. I think that, shops that are a quilt shop, for example, that are considering expanding their product line out into maybe cross stitch, including cross stitch, for example, starting with a kit is a great way to do that because you just don't have to source all of the different materials. You can just have the kits there. They're easy to buy. They're a great gift and it kind of gets somebody started. Plus, if your staff doesn't have a ton of expertise, all the information is right there in the kit in that new area. So I saw a lot of kit sellers doing really, really well at the show.
absolutely. I mean, to say that it doing well is also a relative term because I think everyone felt like they did well. There was even companies that said, "Hey, I didn't see great traffic, but it's a start," because they also recognize these audiences aren't so used to being in the same room. The other part that, from a historical point of view, is that if you go back for anyone that's been in the industry long enough, in the late 70s, early 80s, when the very first larger craft show started, they actually took place in this building some
Yeah,
40 years ago. So we had a handful of exhibitors who, gentlemen,
remember that. Yeah.
88 years old, he can say, I remember my first craft show for the industry was literally the entire building. So it's just kind of neat. Like that was a little unknown when we started this whole activity that we were almost returning home for many of the older section in the industry, just returning home.
Yeah, no, that was totally true, and which was great. And like he said, back in those days, we're talking, I don't even know what decade, 90s maybe. The show was huge. We're talking about the CHA Mega Show, which was really giant at that time. And of course, trade shows have changed, and so now we're returning and reinventing, which I think is absolutely what's necessary and is really exciting. So I don't know if you were able to attend any of the conference sessions. So of course, Craft Industry Alliance, we designed the conferences, like all of the classes that people were able to take, the workshops, as well as the sofa talks. And the sofa talks were a new model for me, which was basically a main stage right on the show floor, open to everyone. And you could just kind of come in, sit down, and listen without pre registering. And that was really cool. And then the classes were something that you paid for and were able to really get like a more intense, longer set of instructions. So I attended several of each because I really wanted to see certain speakers and understand certain topics better. And one of the ones that I went to was Cecilia Nelson Hurt's class that was all about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging for retail shop owners. And she did a fantastic job. She is such a skilled educator. She is so knowledgeable about this topic, having visited yarn shops literally all over the world through her travels and had so much to share in just a way that was very approachable, that made it clear this is a journey. There are many steps along the way. And she really helped folks, I think, like incorporate her parting words were think of one thing you can do right away. And I just really love that. And I really enjoyed being able to see her teach in person.
No, absolutely. And the all of the content that your organization put together, and I want to make sure we draw attention to the volunteer crew that you had who vetted speakers, suggested
Yep.
speakers, helped shape where we're going. Um, we recognize, the type of organization that we are here at Colomesa. We wanted direct industry input as we developed every part of this show. So really wanting to be the stewards of a show for the industry, by the industry, and we're the I don't know, the boat keepers here just to keep us on course, to keep us, keep us afloat and make sure that it actually can happen. But I agree that the overall tone, there was not a session that you heard people say, that wasn't great, or like people just not liking what they did. The sessions all had strong attendance, even something in cryptocurrency and NFTs that might be a very, very foreign topic for this audience. They still had 20 to 30 people in the session sitting at the sofa talks, listening to it. It was nice. People were knitting as they were listening, which is cool. But it was the idea that even something so foreign still had a warm reception in this environment.
Yeah, and I got to go to see Austin Rivers from Knit the Rainbow. So they were our charitable partner, and folks had an opportunity to learn about Knit the Rainbow, learn how their shops can get involved in creating handmade goods to donate to Knit the Rainbow. They provide handmade items for the LGBTQ plus unsheltered community of youth in New York City and now in Chicago. They used this event as a way to expand into a new city. And Austin, first of all, he is an incredible speaker. I wasn't, I mean, I had met with him on Zoom, but man, that guy is a great public speaker. And he really talked about Stonewall and sort of the whole history of Pride, which I knew a little bit about, but learned a lot about through him. And was just so inspiring and really, I felt like gave us such a good mission as to like why we are all here, why we are helping people learn how to craft. So that was a really inspiring event for me.
Well, absolutely. And I'm going to see if I can pull it up in a moment. If you weren't here on site, there was a little bit of a concert on Thursday night where we were trying to get people to knit under the stars. And we'll say in complete honesty, the event totally was bigger than any of us thought.
Oh my gosh, there were a million people at this. Was it a Tom Petty cover band?
Tom Petty cover band. There was in this open air area that the park district of the Rosemont has, there was not a seat to be had. Restaurants were no longer taking reservations. The concession stands were being sold out. It just was super cool because then you could still find our community sitting around, hanging out in the restaurants. So you still were able to connect, but it was just a very large activity. But it was also really nice is because we were able to present our brand as a fiber community, because we were able to get Austin on stage for the intermission to talk about his mission and to talk about being the fiber community. And he had a few minutes up there, and I have some photos that we'll have to dig out and we'll post to Instagram that he was kind of rushed after the stage with people coming up, and there were a handful of people who really were like thanking him for making this topic, addressing this topic and how it directly affected their lives. And people were donating money to him as he came off the stage. It just was a really cool, it was a cool scene. Luckily, as he said, he was a theater major in college. He went, was trying to be an actor in the New York City area. So for him getting on stage, that had to have been 1,000 plus 2,000 people. I don't even know. The place was full. So better him than me.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have been comfortable on that stage.
I love that we had an impact on the city of Chicago, and that's something that I would love to do more in the years to come to really interact with the city as a fiber community, as you said, and as a craft community while we're there. And that same evening, Craft Industry Alliance, we got to have our member gathering at Crest Brewery, which is right there on where the concert is located. It was very fun. We had over 50 people attend, and were treated to this massive fireworks show, which nobody was expecting. So toward the end of the evening, we all look outside and there's all this fireworks going on, which was like so fun and kind of capped off the evening for everyone. So we will definitely do that event again next year. It was such a fun time and a big success. And here we've got some photos from the show floor
Yes, I was trying to dig out because I have a video of, hold on.
of the fireworks.
Bear with me, people. If you don't follow us on Instagram, please do. I would appreciate it. And this way you can also stay up to date with all the other activities we have this week, because there are classes every day. But here's a short little video we put together.
Look at this. It was so fun. It was like the 4th of July.
Yes.
It was crazy.
So we're just going to tell everyone this was for us and for the show.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining our little secret. But no, it really was. It just was a great, captivating evening for the event. And this is our little team, actually. This is the team here at Cologne Messa.
Yeah. And I saw on your Instagram right before you clicked over to this, I did want to mention that Sarah Trail from the Social Justice Sewing Academy here she is in yellow. She was able to give the keynote speech on Friday morning. It was so inspiring. If you've never heard Sarah speak, you definitely should. She has such an incredible organization, an incredible story as to how she started working with young people and with community volunteers on a craftivism project to sort of bring awareness to gun violence in the United States, and to the sort of issues that young people are facing, and having them be able to express their concerns through the fiber arts. It was fantastic. I was changed. I think almost anyone who went to it was changed just through being able to listen to Sarah. So I was really grateful she was able to come all the way from California to give her talk as well.
And if you can't see her, she was very proud. She told us this is her Adidas tracksuit, but it's a tape measure.
Oh my gosh, it was so cool. I love it. It was so cool.
Part to the inspiration as we go to maybe share a couple of photos. A lot of them have been on Instagram. You could search the hashtag and kind of find us. What's kind of cool is, as much as I thought I was posting, to see everyone else posting from the show and the energy of just happiness, hugs and smiles and cool products. And I'm so excited kinds of feelings. But we wanted to set the tone as you walked in the show, right? A big heart. We love everyone. They're here. And with fiber being represented in the imagery.
And these were paint cans. So each one's been painted a different color to make like a rainbow. It's dripping. And then inside the paint cans were skeins of yarn and spools of thread. So just so for folks who didn't get a chance to get up close, that's what you're seeing.
And even some swatches of fabric.
Oh, okay. Right. I missed that. Yeah. And swatches of fabric.
We tried our best to make sure we speak on behalf of all the sectors. Sometimes we can be better than others, but yes, I mean, to quickly flip through. How cool
Yeah.
is that? Fun. Like, I don't even know what to say. Like, that's just like really neat.
Yeah. This was in, I think, the Fabric Editions booth, if I'm remembering correctly.
Again, for going back and forth between different kinds of products, by Annie with all of their notions. We have thread. Where is it? Where's my yarn, folks? A nice yarn company. This is actually one of the booths within the India Untangled area. You can see the banner.
You can see, yeah, right above. Yep.
But it was a nice opportunity to support smaller companies who are trying to gain access to becoming wholesalers and providing product. But then, to me, one of the highlights was definitely this dress.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
And by the way, there were also mannequins along the back wall that were really beautifully outfitted with kind of trendy styles and patterns and things like that. So that was a really inspirational walk kind of along the back wall of the show.
Well, and for the sake of giving you a very fast walking tour, if you want to see those garments now, as we will be adding more photos from the show to Instagram and to the different feeds, but if you click on events, you can come down here. When you click Fashion Boulevard, you can then visit all the garments that were on site.
Awesome. Yeah, that was very cool.
And it gives you some information about the designer. It gives you who the designer is. Some people provided links to the actual pattern itself. So each designer provided or each company provided different information for the items that were on display in the fashion walk there. But also at the bottom here, you can find all the classes later this week. We did get a question in the chat here. If you are, all of the free sessions, meaning the keynote sessions, all the sofa talks, and then all the talks this week are all available for free on the platform. If you took a paid class, that class is now available for your additional reviewing on the platform. If you are experiencing a technical difficulty, please reach out to our support on our website, emails you may have received for us. We'll fix whatever's not working, right? So
Yeah. And definitely watch some of the sofa talks were fantastic. I was able to go to the Indie Magazine publisher sofa talk. I highly recommend that one. It was moderated by Vicky Howell, and we had all different incredible indie magazine publishers talking about that area of the business. So I know that there was a fantastic one, which I am going to watch later because I didn't have a chance to go to it. That was all about sustainability, which is an incredibly important issue and something that is really this is a great way to learn more about it. And Mary Jean Packer from it was able to host that one, and she kind of filled in at the last minute, but she pulled together a fantastic panel. So I'm really excited to watch that one too. So if you weren't able to come to the show, or even if you were, definitely watch some of the sofa talks, which were all free sessions and are all available on the app.
whether you want to do it on your phone or right now, you can see the desktop version of the same material. When you're there, you can click on free session, and then it's an easy way to find those free sessions.
Super.
And you can see it's watching on recording. Like if we skip down to here, Austin's Pride session, and there it is. If you just
Oh,
look.
watch this one. You're gonna love it. It's really good, and it's only like 30 minutes, so it's definitely something. Even if you're like at home working or sewing or whatever you're doing today, put it on in the background. It's great.
And what's also nice is you can then reach out to Austin on the platform and send them a note. You can ask them to connect. You can ask them for a meeting through the platform, along with any of the exhibitors within the show. This is a whole week where you can click on a booth, ask them for a one-on-one appointment, schedule that one-on-one appointment, and you can do it through the platform or use it as like a mini LinkedIn to connect with your industry.
Yeah, and I know this morning that's all I've been doing is sending follow-up notices to all of the folks who stopped by our booth, some of which I got to meet, some of whom I didn't get to meet because I was away from the booth. So follow-up is really important after a trade show to make this experience a success for your company. And it is important to spend that time following up with everybody, whether you got to see them or you didn't get to see them, but you wanted to. This is the week to do that. So take advantage of it and make sure you do send those follow-up notes.
Some additional questions that were typed in the chat. Well, one, can exhibitors access the free classes? Free classes are free classes are free classes are free classes. Free, free, free. Whether you're an exhibitor, a speaker, member of the media, an attendee, the free classes are there for all categories of anyone who wants to click into them. So please enjoy them. We hope that you do. The other common question here is how long would these classes stay open? Right now, we're actually just planning the month for you to be able to come back and continue to watch these on your own. And we'll partly watch demand. Our previous experience through other trade shows, after about 7 days, nobody logs in anymore.
And I think actually having that deadline is good because I know I've signed up for things and known that they've been recorded. And then if they're too long of a window, I never come back. But having that deadline makes you come back. So this is the week to do it, really.
I personally agree, but as I say, we're going to watch the demand, and we're not going to lose any content. So if someone says, "Hey, I really wanted to see that class," of course we will have all the archived information, and we don't want to restrict people from watching stuff that they think is cool or want to learn more from. It's absolutely vital.
And one thing I wanted to make sure we mentioned too is the dates for next year's show, because this was another really popular question I had is when is the show going to be back again next year? So, and where it's going to be, when it's going to be, those are all really important questions for folks who were able to come this year or just wanted to be able to plan for next year. So, Darren, tell us all of that information.
Well, what's great, it's the same dates, June 22nd, 23rd, 24th. The difference is going to be that we're going to do 3 full days of trade shows. So the 22nd is a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 3 full days of trade show. And then as we develop the conference program, we'll more than likely start our program the day before on that Wednesday with some of the more longer form, more hands-on, more in-depth topics kicking into our preview party, and then our 3 full days of trade show. It just seemed, I've never seen, usually trade shows, the last hours of any show, you hear people start packing up. People were writing orders up to 4 p.m. Like it really, people wanted more time. They needed more time to see things. And if we do our job and bring additional exhibitors, you're just going to need more time because there'll be more exhibitors. We had 193 exhibiting companies from 23 nations.
That's incredible. And so, and we'll be back at the Donald Stevens Convention Center
Correct.
in Chicago again. So same location. So mark your calendars. You have a whole year to get ready. And one thing I was going to say too is that I noticed a lot of people made the last minute decision as just as buyers, retailers to come to the show. Like they decided maybe a week before, and people who I felt sure would not be there showed up, and I said, I didn't think you were coming, and there they were. So it was very interesting. I think with COVID this year, I can totally understand making those travel plans 6 months in advance did not necessarily make sense or feel like a risk. It felt like too much of a risk, but then a week or two before, people booked the plane flight and came to Chicago. So, and a lot of them said, oh my gosh, I'm definitely going to have a booth here next year.
Music to my ears. The most warming thing is like as I repeat from a little earlier, going through some of the Instagram of way people hashtag and the joy of just watching people together, and the joy that people had of just even retail shop owners who are taking pictures saying, just wait to see what I'm bringing home, or like a picture of a suitcase full with samples saying, like ladies, wait, you're gonna like you got to come into the store next week because there were so many cool things that we didn't have before. Like I'm just so excited to show you as they go back to their stores and now take things back to the market.
Yeah, it was truly a memorable experience. So, thank you to everybody here who came to our inaugural Digital After Show kickoff event. This is the first time we've done this, so it was a lot of fun actually reviewing all the different aspects of the show. There were many more that we didn't even touch on, but hopefully you got a little bit of a sense of the vibe.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. It's kind of thank you for joining our little experiment here. We appreciate it. We're always looking for feedback. So if you want to give us direct feedback on was this a good use of your now coming up on 35 minutes of time with us today? I sure hope it was, because you could have probably just clicked and signed out if you didn't like what we were talking about. Seeing the crew that stayed here through the end. We do appreciate you being online with us. To give you a quick preview of the coming week, if you don't mind, since you're listening.
Sure. Yeah.
Tomorrow we have the top trends you may have missed at H&H Americas being given by Jenny from Prime Media. So like an editor's eye review of the show.
Great.
Then we have Apple Yarns is kind of giving a class on a benefits of a business to business subscription program. So I thought that was quite interesting. Then on Wednesday, we have Maker Events Calendar. So again, you as a retailer, how you can make your own Maker Events calendar. So you have a schedule of people coming in and activities within your store that probably crosses over to some of that craft activism project stuff.
And who's teaching that one?
Also Apple Yarns.
Okay, great.
As well. Then we have a designer review working with suppliers and size inclusion. Jill Walcott is going to lead that one, and looking at the show from things that she saw from a designer at the show that had to deal with inclusion, but then also mixing it with a designer's eye and some of the cool things that she saw during the show. And then we have 4 simple steps to understanding where your customer is to maximize the sale. That is being given by the Grace Frame Company.
Great.
And that's a little 30-minute piece. And then on Thursday, we have trademark registration basics hands-on, so that if you're a new business and you're thinking, hey, do I have to deal with trademarks? It's expensive to deal with trademarks, or maybe you're a designer or you're launching a new product line even. Again, a nice hands-on, and that's from the quilting crew and from Elizabeth from Tulane, a tenured legal professor there. And then we have Stitchcraft Marketing doing a marketer's review, kind of 5 ideas for supply side and 5 ideas for the retailer side during the show of what they saw.
Right. So it's going to be really good. You'll get even more perspectives, maybe a little bit more of a deeper dive in more specific points of view.
Absolutely. So again,
all right.
We thank everyone for being here.
Thank you so much for coming, everybody.
We appreciate it. I'm going to leave the chat open for a little bit. I'm going to stop the recording now. So feel free to, if you want to unmute and ask a question.